If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place. This is the official Colts podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
He's got it! Touchdown! Jack Doyle! And he's going to be brought down inside the 15, and it's going to go to DeForest Buckner. Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's going to go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
From the Power Home Solar Studio, let's get the podcast started.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Colts official podcast. My name is Jeffrey Gorman, joined each week by Larra Overton and the great Casey Vallier. That's right, Casey, I did put the great in front of your name. I have no idea why, but it's that kind of show. It's that kind of week.
Thank you.
Why not? Don't forget, fans, PointsBet Sportsbook, proud sportsbook partner of the Indianapolis Colts, and a faster, easier way to bet. Now live with a college basketball Make It Rain promotion. All you have to do is place a minimum bet of $50 on a team to cover the spread. And for every three-pointer they hit, Casey, you get $3 in free bets. Plus, you sign up with the code Colts Radio, that's one word, Colts Radio, to get 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. You heard me right, 2 risk-free bets up to $2,000. Check them out, PointsBet Sportsbook, official, proud sportsbook partner of your Indianapolis Colts. I call him the great Casey Vallier, and here's why. And Larra, you'll roll your eyes at this. I was sent a bio request like weeks ago, bio. And like my last bio was like, likes golf and enjoys the month of July. You know what I mean? It's
your most recent headshot that you used on your credentials last 2 seasons is from 1994, I think. So
every time I get an email from Gorman, I'm like, who is this guy?
I know, I got the beard going and everything. Anyway, we did get new headshots. I think we got new headshots, but I had to do a bio, and I literally responded back to Kara, our friend, and I'm like, 15 season with the Colts, lived in Nashville, lived in LA, enjoy golf. It was just like, and she's like, what are you doing? She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what? What? She's like, need more. She's like, here, use this template. It's Casey Vallier's bio template. Oh yeah.
So you've got that. Okay.
I do, but Larra, I'm not going to do what Casey did. He's like, hey, in 8th grade, turned an unassisted double play, playing for my dad's team. It's like, get out of here. I don't want all that information on it. It's like, so I'm going to stick with it. It's like, hey, I did some work in LA, I did some in Nashville, and now I'm back in Indy.
So
hello, everyone.
A little behind the curtain. One of my college professors is now teaching high school, and she wanted me, and one of her classes is radio, so she wanted me to come in and guest speak for her class, and I needed to write a bio for her. I did that last week, so I just had this bio that I had already written that I literally just forwarded to Kara. So that's why it's a little detailed, because she wanted a pretty descriptive one. So I appreciate the great for that, Jeffrey, but I really wasn't trying to overdo it.
You were helpful. You were helpful. And Larra, I know you have a great bio. You love doing that stuff, making it out, and it looks perfect, and yours is 7 pages long.
No, that's only because I freelanced for so many different outlets and have done so many different things. And much like Casey, I had to write one recently because I was emceeing like a charity event. So they're we want to introduce you and kind of read off some accolades. But the funny part is they want you to outline all your prior jobs. And like from 2010 to 2015, I was doing like every bit of freelance possible. I was emceeing Pacers games, and I was their web reporter. And I'm doing, sideline reporting and Big Ten Network and track and field stuff and all these different things. So the joke was running with all of my girlfriends that I lived with at the time that it was like, tax time is coming because Larra's 17 1099s have begun like rolling in. And I would be broke until the fall because I would owe so much money on the taxes from the 1099. I'd have to wait until the next college football season to piecemeal my next slate of employment together.
That's awesome. What we haven't talked about? Casey Vallier is a proud father. How many kids, Casey?
I got 3.
3 kids, beautiful wife. Tucker, old Dan Tucker is a friend of the show, and also your husband, Larra. We haven't talked about that. How's everything going in married life? Because we built this thing up. It was a huge event for you guys, and you did it during the pandemic. Now you've been dwelling together for well over 6 months, 8 months now. How is life as a married Mrs. Dan Tucker?
Well, isn't that how it is, though? there's all the excitement and the build-up leading up until the wedding, and then everyone just forgets about it, right? It's now you're a newlywed. Like, that's the whole thing. It's like, we're so excited for the party. After that, you're just like old married schmucks, or whatever it is. Like, I'm the old ball and chain as of July 26th. But everything's great. It's wonderful.
But are you like... At this point, are you like, hey, dude, put the seat down or put it in the dishwasher?
No,
it's not that hard.
I think it's more so, we lived together for a long time before we got married. I think the weirdest part, you guys, was that I'm just home so much more because I didn't travel for road games this season because of the circumstances of what we did and doing everything remotely on game days. I'm not traveling to do freelance work. Like, I've actually done some track and field, but I've been able to do it. I have kind of a space in my office now. So I think that the bigger part is he's like, we're each very independent, and that's something that happens, I think, also when you meet someone, quote unquote, later in life and you get married when your careers are a little bit more established. Like, you kind of have your own things, right? You have your respective spaces and you kind of operate independently. You certainly have your common shared interests, but you also are used to being kind of on your own paths and doing your own individual things. So for the most part, I think it's like he gets home every day and it's like I'm there, and then he wakes, like I'm always around, as opposed to all of the years leading up to it was like at least once a month, if not multiple times a month, I was like packing a bag, taking a trip. He'd have like a weekend off. And like, guys, let's be honest, I'm a lot to handle. Anyone who's going to spend a life with me needs like a weekend off, like at least a 48-hour like reprieve. So it's not so much like I'm great. Like he's fantastic. He's my best friend in the world. He's absolutely hilarious. He's so much fun. It's more so like I feel bad where I'm like, do you need me to like go to my parents' house? Like, do I need to, like, do you want me to be out of your hair? Because think about it, like, he bought the house. He was a single man for many years before I move in. Suddenly, I move in. He redoes the master bedroom to accommodate me.
That's how it works.
He builds me an office / dressing room / closet. Like, he jokes, like, you're in every room in the house. Like, this is the guy who was used to just kind of having command and free reign of everything. So I think that it's a testament that he's still tolerating me. And, he spent this last weekend at home with my family. We went and celebrated my birthday, my sister's birthday with my parents. And, hey, guys, he's still standing. So I think he's in it for the long haul. Like, if this newlywed phase was a season of Survivor, like, he would still outwit, outlast.
I appreciate it. I appreciate your transparency on that because Casey and I did not want to say this, but we've been working with you for a while, but you are a lot to handle.
That's exactly right.
I tell you what, no, I'm teasing. No, that's awesome. And I'm simply talking about this because
I think that's why Mayte hasn't been back in the building yet. He's like, oh my God, I can't stand it.
I need to stay away.
As long as I can stay away from having to deal with Overton come over here and just peppering me with incessant questions and things like that. And, what we're going to do in the draft and trying to, I'm always just trying to ride Mayte's coattails on knowledge of things. So, yeah.
Well, you're a friend of the show. We love hearing about you. And Casey, I know how it works over at your environment down there and out in Noblesville, rather. It's pretty simple 2 words from Casey Vallier that make things go round, and that is, yes, dear.
Yep. Oh, you're right on. That's literally my life. Whatever she tells me, like we actually talked about, Larra talked about her nice little setup that Dan made for her. We've been talking about where she wants me to be if it's more a long term of staying home. And right now I'm in our bedroom, but she said, well, why don't we just redo your closet and put it in there? So she's really trying to get it so that there's a tiny little room with a door that I can be completely secluded from everybody else. And I'm like, sure, sounds great. Yes, dear, you got it.
Casey, that's what Jamie Moore, one of our scouts, Jamie covers like the Southeast, SEC and a bunch of that area. This is in with the next pick from last year, but you see on the Zoom calls, because all the scouts got pulled off the road and everything, so they're doing all the Zoom calls because they couldn't be in the draft room. Jamie is a father of several. He has, I think, maybe 3 kids, like including a newborn or an infant. And he's taking his Zoom call. He has like a lawn chair in a closet, and everyone's like joning on him. But he's like, "This is the quietest place in my house." Like,
that's fantastic.
My wife, all my kids are, doing e-learning, and I got a baby and all of that. So yeah, Jamie Moore with his setup in his closet. There's like some Seinfeld reference too. I'm not proficient on Seinfeld, but I know that there was something they were talking about, like George Costanza was like under his desk, I think, or something. name at one point, but that was Jamie Moore. So you and Jamie could empathize with one another.
I'll ask him what he did in his closet. There we go.
I love it. Hey, we got a lot to talk about. Brian Baldinger is going to join us here in a second. Baldy from the NFL Network, among other things. You see him, he always talking football. Former Colt, actually. Former player in the NFL, offensive lineman. So we're going to talk about Quentin Nelson.
A favorite of Rick
today.
Venturi. He loves to rave about old Baldy.
Yes, he is. And, and I want to talk about this Colts running game with Baldy. Obviously, a lot of offensive line play, but I want to talk about specifically the running game. We're going to talk about a quarterback. I guess I could say that. We are going to talk about a quarterback a little bit today, but I want to concentrate on the running game, and we're going to do that with Brian Baldinger. You can follow him on Twitter at BaldyNFL. While we're at it, at Larra Overton, at C. Vallier. Is it C. Vallier Colts or
C. Vallier Colts?
Vallier?
Yep, C. Vallier Colts.
At C. Vallier Colts, at Larra Overton. I'm at Hey Gorman. Real simple. So I want to talk some ball. We got to go over some free agents before we do with Brian Baldinger. Casey, give me a quick rundown. And Larra, let's you and I talk about this thing because free agency is upon us, and there are other teams that want the rights to some of the Colts players that have contracts that have run out right now. So I'm talking about some free agents to keep, some free agents that we're possibly going to lose. I want to keep everybody myself.
Well, I think we would all agree that we saw a pretty dominant football team in 2020. We can agree that moving forward, this is definitely a team that people have tabbed as a pretty good team in the AFC. And if you get a couple pieces, you could potentially be a great team fighting for a Super Bowl. And I think the NFL Network, they did a good job of highlighting the Colts free agents. They had a list of the top 101 NFL free agents heading into 2021. 7 of them wore Colts uniforms in 2020. So that's a pretty good number there when you think about all the free agents in that top 100 class of everybody. There's still a handful that have Colts ties. You got guys like Justin Houston and T.Y. Hilton, Denico, Autry, and Xavier Rhodes. Those are guys in the top 50 of that list.
Yes, and yes.
And you listen to all those guys, and you want to be able to have all 4 of them back. I would agree.
Yes, thank you.
I mean, I think it's pretty safe to say that the T.Y. Hilton relationship is so strong here from, fans to the front office. I mean, T.Y. Hilton said before the year that he thinks this next contract will probably be his last. Then we heard Frank Reich last week talk about how he would love to see T.Y. Hilton retire a Colt. So that's one that I know me as just kind of a nostalgic Colts fan, you kind of want to see that play through, and you want to see T.Y. Hilton end up here. But, free agency is wild. Then you've got guys like, Justin Houston and Denico Autry, who over the last couple of years, I mean, they've been the cornerstones when you're looking at guys getting in the backfield. Those are 2 of those guys. And, you look at how important we saw in the Super Bowl, how important getting after the passer is. Those are some guys that have been regularly in the backfield for this Colts team. And then, we mentioned Xavier Rhodes. We all saw the impact that he had in kind of more of like a make-it deal this year. Signed a 1-year deal.
Well, he did.
And I would say he proved it. So there's a handful of guys that I would really love to see back here in a Colts uniform in 2021. All
right, Larra, we got Brian Baldinger coming up real quick. Here's a stat that I love about T.Y. Hilton. Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, and Jim Irsay love him. He needs 640 yards. The Colts would become the only franchise in the NFL history with 3 10,000-yard receivers. Wow. And T.Y. Hilton needs 640 more so the Colts could do that. And like I said, the leadership that he brings, he's still tough to cover. We saw that late in the season this year.
Absolutely. And of course, when he looks to the potential for this offense with this, QB1 to be named, there is a lot there that he can look to see the potential that they would have to capitalize on, given what this Frank Reich system has been able to produce over the previous years and how good it has been to T.Y. Hilton when he's been able to stay healthy.
I love it. I love with a new quarterback coming in, you have a veteran receiver. It always helps. Okay, time now. Let's talk to Brian Baldinger. Baldy, follow him on Twitter first off. It's a great follow, at BaldyNFL. And he's from the NFL Network, Fox Sports. Here's what I love, Baldy, the Sky Sports UK analyst. I love that you're bringing the great game, the American football game, over on the other part of the island.
You got to keep growing it. And I've been over there a lot. As an analyst for Fox, doing NFL Europe games, but you can't underestimate just how much these British and UK fans, just how much they follow the game and how much they know. I mean, they're a smart group, and not just that, but they take the games live over in the UK. So, it's 5 hours later than the East Coast. So if they're watching Sunday night's game, on NBC. They're watching it at 1:30 in the morning over there religiously. And so, they're a rabid fan base.
So what does your schedule look like during the season then for you if you're kind of up all hours of the night accommodating all of these different audiences and fan bases?
Well, I do Sky Sports during the playoffs, Larra. Mm-hmm. So that's tough because I literally don't sleep. I go straight from the games when I'm over there. Now, this year I didn't go because of COVID, but we did it from here. But over there, I mean, we would finish at, the 8 o'clock games on Saturday and Sunday night in the playoffs. We were finishing at, 4:30 in the morning. And then the games were just coming in to my laptop. So I'd stay up and then watch them and study them. So I was just going around the clock, for a couple weeks at a time over there. So I was having a good time. Just drank a lot more coffee than I normally do.
Absolutely. I mean, if there's any guy that has the juice, as Coach Reich would say, to be able to do that, it's certainly you. And one of the things you also did over the course of this season, you had a couple of opportunities to be here on the radio broadcasts covering the Colts. I know I saw you cross paths briefly, but, everyone's distanced and kind of isolated in their areas for those game days. When you looked at 2020, this Indianapolis Colts team, we know that they're in this win-now mode. How close is this team to being among those contenders for the AFC when we talk about looking ahead to 2021, some of the pieces that they're looking to bring in and what they can do in the draft?
Well, they got a good foundation, Larra. I mean, they've been in the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. I thought the team really took a great turn for the better when Jonathan Taylor really got, after the Baltimore game and then the Tennessee game, he took over the offense, in the second half of the season. And they look like a Frank Reich team, the way the J train was running. And so I think that really helped him. I think, when DeForest Buckner was in the lineup, I mean, they were a real force defensively all year long. And so I think they're right there. They're just, you got to be built for January. And so your quarterback's got to play great in January. You got to be at your very best and all phases, the coaching and health-wise and all that. But I think they're built for January, and if you can get to January in this league, it doesn't take much in order to get to a championship game, and then you just let the chips fall where they will. You hope that you don't let anything slip through the cracks, and you're at your very best in championship games.
Check them out on NFL.com. Baldy's breakdowns. They're the best if you're a football fan. Follow this man at Baldy NFL.
Yeah, they're the very best. You have to follow. I agree.
You have to. I'm pumping you. And plus, you've got a whole new thing on these breakdowns that you're doing, bro. You've got the matching headband with the matching shirt when you're breaking this stuff down, meaning you are going for it. It's almost like a workout for you.
It is a workout. I mean, literally, I just came out of vacation. So I feel extremely fresh.
Yes.
I can't say that after working every day for 7 straight months, but I'm extremely fresh right now and juiced because we've got, this off season now. I mean, it's full bore, and so it's trades, it's free agency, it's the draft,
right?
And people can't get enough, and so you got to give it to them. That's what they want. And so you got to get deep. You got to get deep in the film room. You got to bring it to them on a daily basis. They're content driven, and so that's what I'm all about right now.
Baldy, we got a quarterback to be named. I got to watch myself on this because we're considered club officials, Larra and I. So when free agency does hit and they possibly bring in a new quarterback, we understand all that. But my question to you right out of the gate is, in this offense, and you talked about the J train, Jonathan Taylor, you talk about this offensive line week in and week out. When they add the pieces on the offensive line, can this offense win or should I say, can any offense win in the NFL with a 50-50 run-pass differential? Right down the middle, a team that runs as much as they pass or a team that even runs more than they pass. Can that win in this day and age of the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing great defense, it can. You tend to turn the ball over less, give the other team fewer at-bats when you run the ball at a close to a 50-50 pace. Seattle did it that way with Pete Carroll, went to 2 Super Bowls in a row, dismantled Denver in one of them. Tampa really fought hard to become a little bit balanced this past season. When Philadelphia won in 2017, they had their own J train, Jay Ajayi and LeGarrette Blount and Corey Clement. They had a whole, Darren Sproles, they had a whole backfield that they would empty on any given Sunday, trying to balance things up. So I think as long as you're playing good defense and you're keeping the score down, you can certainly win that way in this league.
Baldy, we know how much you appreciate Quentin Nelson and how unique of a beast that he is. When you look at this offensive line, having to replace Anthony Costanzo, and that's a big piece to try to replace with what he was able to do in his career here in Indianapolis. Is it feasible? Is it likely to see him make that move, see Quentin Nelson make that move? We know that that's been discussed as a possible option. To you, what makes the most sense to reinforce this offensive line and provide the best protection for this incoming quarterback and for this run game?
Well, I don't have any doubt that Quentin could play left tackle. I mean, I just don't. But I wouldn't do it, and I don't think the Colts will do it. I mean, I don't think changing two positions to fix one is ever the right answer. It can be a Band-Aid, but I don't think it's a long-term answer. I mean, I think they need a left tackle. Now, Trent Williams sitting out there. I mean, Trent Williams and Quentin Nelson and me on the left side. I mean, the J train's going to run for 2,000. That's the way I would draw it up. But I wouldn't do it. I think Quentin Nelson inside makes Ryan Kelly better. He's going to make whoever's playing left tackle better. I think it's more important to have a flat pocket than it is to have a wide pocket. Meaning it's better if the quarterback can step up the way Quentin flattens it for you than it is for anybody screaming off the edge. I mean, I think most quarterbacks have the ability to kind of beat the edge rushers. It's when they can't step up that gives them the most problems. And then if you just factor in Quentin's ability to pull and the power game that he brings you inside in the run game, I just wouldn't do that. I would go draft one, or I'd go, take a long look at Trent Williams or somebody else right now to replace Anthony Costanzo, because it's a big glaring hole, no question about it. And it's an important piece, but I don't believe Quentin should be the answer to fixing that problem.
Often elite offensive line play may be overlooked just by kind of your more general fan who's just kind of watching the game. You are fantastic because you break down the intricacies and the nuances of the game, and I've loved watching your breakdown over the past few years of Quentin Nelson and this entire offensive line. But just shine some perspective on from those X's and O's, from a film breakdown perspective, exactly how unique is what Quentin Nelson is able to do, and just what makes him so darn good that might be overlooked to, your casual football fan.
Well, I mean, first of all, Larra, he's Peyton Manning in game preparation. Mm-hmm. I mean, any game that you watch with Peyton Manning, he went through the same routine every single Sunday. I mean, start down on his knees, just having, a ball toss. And then he'd go through the whole tree. And it was like that every single game I ever watched him in. Mm-hmm. And it's the same thing. Nobody goes through a pregame ritual the way Quentin Nelson does. I mean, it's a solid hour every Sunday. But that's how he approaches every single day. He wants to be the best left guard to ever play the game. And so it's a mentality. It's a mindset. I remember his rookie year. He let his weight get away from him. He was probably north of 350. Some people have meat locker scales that measure, body weight over 350. I don't think the Colts have that, if I remember correctly. And so, but he that won't happen again. But he wants to be the best. So it starts with just preparation, and then just the mindset of what it takes. And it's just the conditioning level that he has. Nobody in this league, not one player, can run as much as Quentin Nelson does in a game on offense and chase the ball every single play, whether it's picking the quarterback up, protecting the quarterback, picking up, the J train or Hines or, whoever it might be, 30 yards down the field. I mean, nobody plays with that type of effort. And so those are some of the contributing factors that make them special.
Hey, Baldy, I got to give some love. We can talk about Quentin Nelson for 2 hours. We know how good he is. We saw what Pro Football Focus put out in the last couple of days on him, and his domination. But I want to switch to the outside on the right side. Is Braden Smith? Could you see Braden Smith being one of the superior elite right tackles in the league?
I think so. I think he has what it takes. You know, you like right tackles in today's game see just as many fierce pass rushers as the left tackle does. I mean, when you're looking at Khalil Mack or Von Miller or J.J. Watt, I mean, just go through the list of guys that come against the right tackle on a regular basis right now. I mean, they see just as much action out there as your left tackle does against elite players. And so that's part of it. I think that him and Glowinski are a good right side. I mean, they don't get the attention that Quentin gets or, you know, in the level that Costanzo played with over the last 3 years. But they're certainly consistent players. And so I think the mistakes sometimes we make because Quentin has been so dominant and because you do have, you know, organizations that grade players now, is that we sort of look at these things individually when really your offensive line is only as good as its weakest link, whenever that happens. And so to me, when I look at the offensive line as a whole in Indianapolis, I look at a great unit. I look at Cleveland. I look at Indianapolis. I mean, there's a handful of teams that are just better than everybody else because of the way that they play together. And I think that's the strength of Indianapolis. I know Quentin, you know, hates it when he gets talked about in front of everybody else, you know, ad nauseum, like when I do it. But you know, Braden Smith is a good, solid player, and he holds his own every Sunday in there against, you know, really good competition.
Hey, Baldy, Nick Sirianni, now the Philly coach, Marcus Brady in as offensive coordinator, a new quarterback coming into this offense. Does play calling change dramatically from Luck to Rivers to now, you know, quarterback on March 17th? Or will the offense be similar, or do you think it'll change up as far as skill set and especially skill position players the Colts have now that they haven't in years past?
Well, I think it has to. You know, Carson's a completely different player than Andrew Luck, and he's far different than Phillip Rivers. And so, you know, I went back and watched Carson in 2016, 2017 this weekend, and just the marriage that him and Frank had. I mean, they were a tight end-based offense the way Indianapolis is now, you know, with Mo Alley Cox and Burton and Doyle and whoever else they bring in. They're tight end-based. That's what they were when they won a Super Bowl in Philadelphia. But Carson was a big part, not a big part, but he was a contributing part in the run game. And I think if you don't allow Carson to keep your defense honest by designed runs, rollouts, using his mobility and his athleticism, you're not using the best of Carson Wentz. Mm-hmm. I mean, he is a big, strong, fast player. Some days he looks like a cyborg. Now, he hasn't played well, played horribly last year, and didn't play particularly well in 2019. But I do believe that in this offense, the way it's constituted right now with the offensive line, the way Frank likes to use his tight ends, that I think Carson's got a chance to get back. But I think it's going to look different than it did last year just because of Carson's mobility.
Baldy, Jeff mentioned the turnaround on the coaching staff a little bit, and that resulted also in the addition of Kevin Mawai. Chris Strasser, of course, the offensive line coach. Now Kevin Mawai comes in as the assistant O-line coach, a 16-year NFL veteran, a Pro Football Hall of Famer. How significant is the addition of Kevin Mawai into this coaching staff for this offensive line?
I just think knowing Kevin and what kind of man he is, you just get a winner. You get a winner, first of all, inside the locker room. Knows what winning is all about. So from a cultural standpoint, I mean, he walks the walk. He's in lockstep with the way Frank lives his life. So, I mean, I think that's healthy. You never want to usurp the power of, you know, your head offensive line coach. But I think, you know, when you start developing, because you always have to be looking at developing players. I mean, I think Kevin can really help little details when you're developing players. I think he can add details during the week when you're putting game plans together. And then I think he can be a great sounding board game day when you're just trying to fix things that aren't going well during a game. And just a great set of eyes. I think one of the great strengths of Frank as a coach is he's a great collaborator. Mm-hmm. You know, I think Marv Levy was a great collaborator. I played for Marv for a little bit. My brother played for him in Buffalo. Marv took a lot of input. When I listened to the wires of Frank Reich, I listen to a lot of people adding input. And I think, that's where Kevin can really add something. It might be, the way that you run the ball, or the side that you run to, or something that he sees from a matchup standpoint game day that can influence Frank's decision to call a particular play. So I think, and he wants to coach. So, he's been on the management side and he's done all these different things, but he wants to coach. So I think it's a good fit all the way around right now.
As we look to this NFL offseason, you mentioned all the craziness surrounding trades and free agency and preparation for the draft. There's no shortage of news, but there's also no indication that this offseason is going to look drastically different, at least this spring. Maybe from last year, it seems like there's going to still do a lot of the virtual meetings and different things, and maybe some limited in-person opportunities when you look at the OTA and minicamp format, potentially. Looking to the unknown of these next few months with how important, especially with an offensive line, how important continuity is when you're bringing in a new left tackle, you're going to bring in a new quarterback. How do you make up for that if you have few to no opportunities in person? What do you do so that you're able to get up to speed, create that chemistry, and hit the ground running come training camp? Should that be the first opportunity that you're with your guys all in the locker room together looking ahead to the 2021 season?
Well, it's a good question, Larra, and I don't exactly know how to answer, except that I hope, the way the vaccinations are going, that, we can kind of move past, the lockdowns that we've all been, subject to. So I'm optimistic that by the time we get to June, players can get on the field. We can maybe get back to a normal training camp. But if it doesn't, and if we're not there yet, the one thing that we all have seen is that people have adjusted. Teams have adjusted. And so it doesn't make it any easier when you have a new quarterback or a new left tackle or new coaches, the way the Colts do. It doesn't make it any easier, but everybody else is going through the same thing. So I don't see one team having, a bigger advantage over the other team. Tom Brady came in and never took a snap with the offense until training camp last year, and he won a Super Bowl. I think that gives everybody optimism. Now it's Tom Brady, and, that's a little bit, it's not everybody gets that type of general coming into their building. But still, it did happen. And so he learned a new offense and learned new teammates. And so, other guys have done it. And so that's just what you're up against right now. I was in Indianapolis this year for a quarterback collective camp with the top high school quarterbacks. And both Chris Ballard and Frank Wright spoke. And we did everything via Zoom that day. And just watching how Frank is on Zoom in front of, 30 of the best young high school quarterbacks in the country, he's just a great teacher, and he connects really well. And so when Frank speaks, you'd be a fool not to listen. And so that's, if that's the way the installations are going to go this year, then open up your ears and get your sleep and, pay attention, because you're going to learn a lot.
Brian Baldinger at Baldy NFL. Follow him. Okay, I got a two-part question. First one, really quick. Is there first-round talent, offensive linemen? Well, first and second-round talent. How many guys do you think would go in the first two rounds that are center guard tackles?
I think we're going to see at least 5 right now. I think Rashawn Slater and Penei Sewell and Jalen Mayfield, I think those guys are going to go. We got to take a look here at Tevin Jenkins from Oklahoma State. He certainly looks like he could play right tackle in this league. Sometimes there's a run on these tackles. I think Dickerson from Alabama, whether he's a guard or center, has a chance to go in the first round, but certainly in the second. I can see 7 or 8 linemen taken in the top, 40, 45 picks right now in this draft, and a chance of 5. And Vera Tucker from USC is certainly going to be a first-round pick, at center or guard. So, I think you can see 5 or 6 for sure in the first round this year.
All right, Baldy, just kind of a yes or no, and then I got a follow up on the greenhouse question coming up. But Deshaun Watson, is he playing football in the AFC South next year? My guess is he is going to. I think this will play itself out.
I think that Houston still holds all the leverage here. I can't see Deshaun Watson. I mean, he does have the leverage of not playing, but I can't see Deshaun Watson not playing football this year.
Right.
And as much as he doesn't want to go back to Houston, I can't see Houston dealing him. He's just too good and too valuable right now.
Absolutely. Okay, greenhouse time. I'm watching it right now. It's beautiful. I love what you've got going. You say it's 25, 33 degrees out, and then inside your greenhouse that you're watering, I got vibrant colors, plant life. I love this, Baldy. I had no idea.
Well, I mean, not many people do, but I mean, I got a green thumb. I'm probably going to be a farmer in my next lifetime. I have the ability to grow things. And sometimes I just challenge myself, whether it's with olive trees or fig trees that shouldn't grow in South Jersey. I mean, I know it's a garden state, but those things aren't supposed to grow. So, I challenge myself every winter. And then, once, the ground thaws out, which may never happen this year, but once the ground does thaw out, I'll have my pepper garden and blueberries, and my vineyard will look good, and the grapes will get plucked, and I got a variety of different type of gardens. But in the winter, it's my little bubble, my little safe haven to go into when it's just miserable outside.
Oh man, I love it, man. Braden Smith, Larra, should we talk to him about Braden Smith?
We have to quickly get this in, Baldy. I know that you are so ingrained and up to speed with everything that's happening across social media, and Braden Smith has really cultivated quite a following. He has his Tackle Talk, where he does his videos on fishing, and then he also is dishing out gardening tips on his Twitter.
Yes.
Have you caught this? Have you guys had any back and forth about your horticultural endeavors?
No, I haven't. I'd like to learn some fishing from him. I was just in Costa Rica. Like everybody else was pulling tuna into the boat except for me. So I need to get that from him. But I'd love to trade some gardening tips with him. I mean, that's a subject that you never stop learning from. So, sometimes I just throw things in the ground and see what pops out of the ground. If it doesn't, I just throw something else in the ground, So I don't have all the science behind it, but I would like to connect with Braden on that. Sounds like good subject matter for offensive line to talk about.
Well, we've got a pond right out here at the complex, so you guys are welcome to come on over here to West 56th Street.
56th Street. I know that pond. I know exactly where that is. Absolutely.
Hey, Baldy, I've caught big fish out of there. True story.
What are you getting? You getting like smallmouth bass or what?
Yeah, we largemouth bass. Ursay stocked that thing over 20 years ago with these little guppy bass. Now they're big.
Okay, I mean, are they 7-8 pounds big?
Not quite there. I'll get you a 5-pounder out of there.
Show me a 5-pounder. Like, take a picture of the mouth. You can throw it back. Let them get up to 6 or 7 pounds. But let me see that 5-pounder. Let me see what that bad boy looks like.
I will, Baldy. I love it.
I wish that we had you here. I wish that, we just spent the last week here in Indy talking combine. Wish we were doing this, firsthand with you here, but we'll have to do that when you're here, hopefully either over training camp or next season when you're covering the games. One final thing for me quickly is it's trending toward that we are going to see a 17-game season, 17 regular season or 17-game regular season next year. Yep. Your reaction to that? I mean, selfishly for me, the more I want to see more games, but there's also that element of making sure that you're protecting the player and the liability that there is for their health as well.
Well, I mean, I think as long as the players are being compensated, however they do that, for 17 games. I mean, I think it's eventually, to be honest with you, going to be an 18-game schedule and a two-season preseason schedule, and they'll stay on a 20-week schedule. I mean, I think that's where it's going, and so 17 is just sort of the leap year to it. But I mean, it's just. The game is just too big. They got to keep growing the pie. The expenses get bigger, and so they got to generate more revenue. One way to do it is to play more games. And I know that player safety is important, but I think if you ask players, they want to play football. And so, and fans deserve a better product than what we see in preseason. So I think a 17-game, 3 preseason game schedule this year is where we're going to go. But I think eventually it's going to be 18-2. And, I think there'll be a discussion about it in finances. And if players can, make more money from it, then more power to them.
Okay, Baldy. Last one from me. Colts a playoff team in 2021?
I believe so, yeah. I want to see Paris Campbell healthy. I want to see him fix that left tackle position. I want to see Carson Wentz get back to what he looked like in 2016, 2017, because he really is a cyborg. I mean, he's just different. And so I want to see him get that confidence and mechanics back, and I believe that there'll be a playoff team.
Great. We're going to check in with you around training camp from the NFL Network, Fox Sports, Compass Media Networks, Entercom Radio, NFL.com. That is Brian Baldinger. Baldinger, I appreciate the time. Follow him on Twitter at BaldyNFL. Let's catch up soon.
My pleasure, guys. Go Colts. Let's do it.
Excellent. Love it.
Nobody better. Nobody better.
I love it. Former players come on here, tell it like it is. They got a love for the Colts, too, right there. Casey Vallier didn't have time to get into question, I know, Larra, but I want to get him back on here because Casey is my free agent guy.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Sure. If that's what I am, that's literally the first I've ever heard you say that to me. So if I'm your guy, then whoo.
Gummit. Larra, I'm just going to be transparent. We all are today. I said before we started with Baldy, hey, go to Casey for a couple. I shut him out. Dadgummit. Okay,
That's all right.
Case,
That's all right.
Case, how do you feel personally and professionally about J.J. Watt now an Arizona Cardinal?
I don't know. I was probably as shocked with the news as everybody was. Mainly because I just figured he would go to a team that's a bona fide competitor right now, like a team that's going to be competing for a Lombardi. And you just look at that division, and I don't know if the Cardinals are even the second best team in that division. So, right. I mean, and I think everybody, I've heard all day today is that, when you look at the Cardinals and their struggles, it wasn't a defensive struggle. So, I mean, sure, J.J. Watt is going to help. He would help literally all 31 other teams that wanted his services, because I think everybody, you start hearing rattlings that, this team had interest in this team. I think every single team outside of the Texans who released him probably at least looked at it and said, wow, he could help right here, because that's just the kind of player that he is. But I just was a little shocked that it wasn't a team like, Buffalo or the Packers, just because they have that. Already from 2020, you saw them in the championship of their respective divisions and conferences. So I thought that would be the landing spot. But who knows? I mean, nobody thought the Buccaneers prior to Tom Brady going there was even a playoff team, let alone a team that could win the Super Bowl. So who knows?
Oh, Larra, I wanted them here. Could you? Who are they going to double team? DeForest or JJ?
Man, I mean, could you imagine?
Oh, that is a headache right there. I can't
just
even.
Imagine how
you
good.
Talk about those ambient players. You talk about ambient players, to steal Rick Venturi's terminology. But yeah, that's a double ambient duo is what that would produce right there.
Well, that's
to sleep.
One of the things that I always look at too is what it does for everybody else around you. And I mean, we saw just by adding DeForest Buckner to this defensive line, the growth we saw out of Grover Stewart in 2020. You just imagine. Growth. I mean, it would just make everybody else better. And that's why, when you look at that Cardinals team with Chandler Jones, who I don't think nationally gets enough pub, but I mean, this guy's fifth right now among active NFL players in career sacks. I mean, the dude's almost at 100 sacks. So clearly he's been a guy that's got after the quarterback over his decade of being in the league. So you put him with J.J. Watt, and that's definitely scary. But I almost look at the other guys on that line, watch out for them to have breakout years.
Yeah, absolutely.
I completely forgot that the Colts play at Arizona this year until that happened, and I was like, "Oh, we thought we got rid of this guy." I was like, he's out of the division. Oh well, at least we only have to play him once and not twice. I guess that's the one thing. That's the silver lining to it, I suppose, from the Colts' perspective.
Yes, hey, guys, I'm fired up for free agency. I know you are too. But here's one question before we get out of here: is like Casey earlier, you mentioned Xavier Rhodes and the kind of show it deal. Come in, and we saw what he did. And free agency starts March 17th, and I'm sure there'll be a quarterback that'll sign on March 17th. But there are other positions to be filled that can be filled in free agency. And guys, I'm excited about watching Ballard do what he does to find those impact players, not so much at a bargain price, but at a real good price that they can still build the roster around. Let's not forget, this team has the fourth most cap space, fourth most now, even after potentially signing somebody that I can't talk about.
Right, and if you look at the reports about the Colts having interest in J.J. Watt, I think what it shows is that We talked about it over the last couple of years. Chris Ballard has always been, I wouldn't say standoffish, but he's just been so disciplined when it comes to spending money in free agency. But I thought one of the biggest things that we heard in his end-of-the-year presser was, if this team is ready to bring in a big-name free agent, he said, absolutely. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see the Colts really in the mix this offseason for one of those big-name free agents. And if you look at some of the holes, there's some pretty top-tier talent. You heard Brian Baldinger talk about the guys out there at left tackle that, Trent Williams doesn't typically hit free agency because you just pay your left tackle.
That's right.
So
that's $20 million.
Right.
That's $20 million a year, though. Hold on.
Right.
$20 million a year, though. We're talking.
I'm not saying that absolutely you go. I'm just saying this offseason there are those players available. Because in years past, when you look at some of the pass rusher, you want a guy that's going to get after the quarterback, you want a guy that's going to protect the quarterback, and you want a quarterback or you want a top-tier wide receiver. Those guys just don't hit the market because of the demand of how important they are to a certain scheme. So I think it's going to be interesting to see some of these big names being available.
And Larra, who knows at 21? Does Chris trade up? Does Chris trade back to get picks back?
Oh,
you know what he does.
You know what I mean? He's going to work something. It would be unusual that you have those, you get to those closing hours, those closing days leading up to the draft, and Chris Ballard doesn't pull off some sort of magic, as we have seen, to, add a few picks back in, move some things around to give him a couple of more options when you're talking about this upcoming draft. One thing I do want to note, you guys, I'm not sure if you saw this on social media. Darius Leonard was teasing this last night, said he had a big announcement this morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. He has launched the Maniac Foundation. You can follow it at Maniac Cares on Twitter, which it's his organization, his foundation, dedicated to transforming communities through education, wellness, serving families in need, and other charitable causes. He's going to do that in Lakeview, South Carolina, as well as here in Indianapolis. There is not a more selfless human being, teammate. Not that I've ever met in my entire life than Darius Leonard, and I just every single day feel so grateful that he is a member of this organization, a member of this community, and continues to dedicate as much of himself as he does. So big props, big round of applause to Darius, continuing to do just Darius things, just Darius excellence on and off the field. How do you not root for this guy, whether you're a Colts fan or not? You want to root for Darius Leonard because he is just one of the absolute best. So huge props to Darius for doing what he is doing, launching this foundation. And he always has been so adamant about using his platform to help others, to uplift others, to reach out. And it's great to see him doing that now on an even greater stage than he had already been doing in this organized fashion.
Also find his story, which is a great one, on Colts.com/kickingthestigma, which he talks about some personal battles that he's had through the year and overcoming those sort of mental handicap roadblocks that some people go through, a lot of people go through. But anyway, Colts.com/kickingthestigma, Darius Leonard, a big part of that, Jim Irsay, the Irsay family, and I think it's a wonderful thing that we're not talking about a lot or enough. And I know they're starting a big charity fundraiser that's going to be with big names from around the country that are getting behind this and mental awareness and how we deal with it. So a lot of big stuff coming in 2021, guys.
I'm so excited.
And Larra, one of the things that I want to just kind of piggyback off what you talked about with Darius, I'm sure you guys get this question when you tell people you work for the Indianapolis Colts. That one question is, well, who's your least favorite player?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite or who's your least? And literally what Darius has done just helps put to light what I say every time when somebody asks. I say, I haven't been in other teams' locker rooms, so all I know is the Colts locker room. But I've always said that we are so blessed in Indianapolis to have not only great players on the field, but they're even better people. And that's one of the things that I love seeing Darius do this because they're normal people, and that's what I love. We go and we talk. We are so lucky to have the jobs that we have. But when we go in and we talk to these, we start to form relationships with these players, and they're just human beings like you and I. I mean, that's the best part, and that's what I love telling people. And then seeing, guys like Darius Leonard, who, he's one of the biggest in all of sports right now at the game that he's playing. This is what I love. I love seeing these are the announcements. He promotes this. Everybody's like, oh, he's got a big contract doing this. No, he's just helping people, and that's what I love.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Casey, well said. What a great ending to a show. Do something nice for somebody else today. How about that for a little mantra as we say on our way out? Go out, be of service And as I said that, I just fell in my chair in my home office.
I was
like, are you okay?
Yes. I was in there. I was inching up on it. I was getting into the microphone saying, just spread joy and love and
Gorman
be nice
got
to your
so
neighbor
fired
today.
up, just threw himself
did.
right out of his seat. All
I'm
right,
like
I got to
Brian.
go talk to college kids now.
Oh, well, have fun.
That'll wait. Larra Overton on her way to speak to college kids via Zoom to talk about how to do it in journalism. LO, you're the best. I appreciate you doing this week in, week out. Casey, thank you so much. I'm sorry you got shut out today with Baldy, but there's always next week. And I am Jeffrey Gorman. Thanks again to our friends at PointsBet Sportsbook and all your information that you need, latest and greatest on the Colts. Follow them on Twitter, Casey Vallier and Larra Overton, but also the Colts app and Colts.com. We will talk to you next week. Thank you, Brian Baldinger. Guys, time to talk some football. Training camp right around the corner.